You know the legend. Davy Crockett, king of the wild frontier, the Alamo's fearless hero, rifle in hand, fighting to his last breath. But what if I told you the truth is far stranger? That the man behind the myth was a master manipulator of his image, his enemies, even his own death? This is the story they buried, the tale of a dirt-poor dropout who outwitted America's most powerful president, a war hero who hired a stranger to fight in his place, a politician who faked his autobiography to sell a lie. And that legendary last stand at the Alamo? The details don't add up. Was he a martyr or a man fleeing disgrace? Why did Andrew Jackson swear to destroy him? How did a backwoods nobody become a celebrity, only to vanish in a haze of gunpowder and mystery? And what did he really whisper before the Alamo fell? Forget the fairy tales. This is the Davy Crockett history forgot, and the one you won't see coming. But before we begin, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel to support our community. Davy entered the world in 1786 in Greene County, North Carolina, though today it's part of Tennessee. Back then, the region was still under North Carolina's control. His father, John, ran a grist mill until floods wiped out both the mill and their livelihood. By 1795, financial ruin forced John to declare bankruptcy. The family's struggles grew so desperate that John bound his son under contract to Jacob Sealer. Raised in the remote wilderness, young Davy had little schooling, partly due to his rebellious streak and habit of skipping class when enrolled. Instead, a neighbor gave him 100 days of lessons. John tried to force the boy back to school, but Davy, fiercely independent, struck out on his own. As a young man, Crockett took odd jobs, hired farmhand, cattle driver, before eventually returning home to help his father pay off debts. Davy Crockett never followed the rules, especially in love. While working on John Kennedy's land, he fell for Kennedy's niece, Amy Summer. There was just one problem. She was engaged to Kennedy's son. Undeterred, Crockett convinced another wedding guest to marry him, only for her to choose someone else. Later, he married Polly Finley, despite her family's protests. They had 3 children, including a son who would later serve Tennessee in Congress. But tragedy struck when Polly died in 1815. Crockett then married Elizabeth Patton, a widow, and fathered 3 more children. Like many leading men of his time, Crockett first rose to prominence through military service. In 1813, Creek warriors assaulted Fort Mims in what is now Alabama, slaughtering almost all its inhabitants. This atrocity fueled public outrage and spurred involvement in the Creek War, a complex conflict between opposing Creek factions. American troops, commanded by Andrew Jackson, allied with the lower Creeks, while the Red Stick Creeks had British and Spanish support. Crockett joined Tennessee's militia and saw action, though he later confessed he'd rather hunt in Alabama than fight native tribes. Despite his reservations, he remained under Jackson's command until growing discontent led him to hire a substitute, a destitute laborer, to serve in his place until his 1815 discharge. Though flawed, Crockett's military experience inspired him to seek public office. He became a commissioner, helping survey the boundaries of Tennessee's newly established Lawrence County. This marked the start of his rapid rise in local politics. By 1817, he was appointed Justice of the Peace. A year later, he attained the rank of lieutenant colonel in Tennessee's 57th Militia Regiment. After succeeding in private business, he returned to politics in 1821, representing Lawrence and Hickman counties in Tennessee's legislature. His policies echoed the struggles of his father, John, who had raised a family on the frontier. He advocated for populist reforms and opposed excessive taxes on the poor. These positions won him loyal backing from small farmers and laborers across the state, but also fierce enemies who would later engineer his political undoing. Crockett's climb from obscurity to national fame was remarkable, though his career faced setbacks. He ran repeatedly for the U.S. House of Representatives, losing in 1825, but winning consecutive terms in 1827 and 1829. He was defeated in 1831 by William Fitzgerald, only to narrowly regain his seat in 1833 before losing decisively to Adam Huntsman in 1835. While effective as a legislator, Crockett devoted considerable effort to shaping his public image, publishing memoirs and giving speeches that highlighted his rugged, charismatic frontiersman persona. In 1834, Crockett released The Life of David Crockett, a memoir supposedly written by himself, though this was misleading. The book was actually a collaboration with Thomas Chilton, a Kentucky congressman and political ally. The narrative focused heavily on Crockett's frontier exploits while downplaying his legislative accomplishments and business ventures. Though popular in Tennessee, his political ambitions were ultimately thwarted by Andrew Jackson's faction, which dominated the state's political scene. Having cemented his reputation as a military leader, the future president also played a key role in founding Memphis. Tensions with Jackson's allies began in 1821 when Crockett endorsed Whig candidate William Carroll over Edward Ward for governor. At first, the gamble paid off. Carroll won and repaid Crockett's support, but Jackson never forgot the betrayal by his former subordinate. The rift deepened in 1823 when Crockett defeated Jackson's nephew-in-law, William Edward Butler, for a seat in the state assembly. Unaware of Jackson's lasting bitterness, Crockett underestimated his enemy's reach. By 1824, Jackson launched his first presidential campaign. Though he won both the popular vote and a plurality of electoral votes, John Quincy Adams ultimately claimed the presidency. Crockett's relief didn't last long. Jackson crushed Adams in 1828. Meanwhile, Crockett became a vocal defender of settlers squatting on government-owned land in western Tennessee. His opposition to Jackson aligned him with the Whig Party, and he even proposed shutting down West Point, arguing it unfairly favored the elite. His boldest stand came in 1830 when he opposed Jackson's Indian Removal Act, the only Tennessee delegate to do so. While Cherokee communities applauded his defiance, many Tennessee voters turned against him, contributing to his 1831 election loss. Defeated and directionless, Crockett faced an uncertain path. Texas's push for statehood captured his imagination. He swore to friends that if Martin Van Buren, Jackson's protege, won the 1836 election, he would leave for Texas to lead a rebellion. When Van Buren, nicknamed the Little Magician, emerged victorious, Crockett kept his word. As he famously told a reporter, "I told my constituents I'd serve them faithfully, but if they rejected me, they could go to hell. I'd head to Texas." Using his natural charm, Crockett rallied volunteers for Texas's independence, even delivering a rousing speech at Madison County's courthouse surrounded by supporters. Hundreds gathered to hear his passionate, pro-Texas rhetoric. By early 1836, he arrived in Texas, pledging loyalty to its provisional government. His signed oath declared, "I have sworn allegiance and enlisted as a volunteer," before marching toward the Rio Grande with American recruits. On February 8th, he entered the Alamo mission in San Antonio, a critical stronghold in the fledgling Texas Republic's defense. Originally built as a Spanish mission, the Alamo had been converted into a military outpost during conflicts with Apache raiders. After passing from Spanish to Mexican control in 1821, it was seized by Texan rebels in 1835. Just 2 weeks after Crockett's arrival, Mexican General Santa Anna's forces surrounded the compound. The defenders, taken by surprise, endured a brutal siege against Santa Anna's superior numbers. Mexican troops faced relentless resistance but advanced steadily under artillery fire. Crockett and his men battled fiercely to the end. He led daring attacks on 4 Mexican-occupied huts near the Alamo, driving back enemy forces through close-quarters combat and cannon fire from the fort. Another counterattack briefly gained ground, but hope dwindled as their calls for reinforcements went unanswered. After 13 grueling days under siege, Santa Anna's final assault overran the Alamo in just 90 minutes. Crockett met his end in the chaos. Reports vary. Some claim he fell in a heroic last stand, while others insist he surrendered only to face execution. Whatever the truth, Davy died that day, his remains burned alongside his fellow defenders. The final whereabouts of his ashes remain unknown. As the siege's most famous casualty, he became an enduring symbol of Texas's struggle for freedom. Davy's iconic image, complete with his trademark raccoon skin cap common among frontier hunters, captured the imagination of generations. His legend as the ultimate rugged pioneer remains firmly etched in American culture. While rooted in truth, he was indeed a skilled frontiersman raised in the wilderness. This persona was also carefully cultivated. Crockett proved remarkably adept at shaping his public image to further his political and business interests. His death while fighting to expand America's borders and shape Texas's future seems a tragically fitting end. The congressman's dramatic demise sealed his legacy, transforming him into a martyr of westward expansion. But who was the real Davy Crockett? A noble hero? A calculating opportunist? Or something more complex? Did he truly die at the Alamo? Mexican accounts say he surrendered, while survivors insisted he fought to the last. Here's what we know for certain. Davy's body was never recovered, just ashes scattered to the wind. Consider this. Why would a man who built his reputation on honesty fabricate his memoir? Why flee to Texas after political ruin? Was the Alamo a courageous last stand or a desperate bid to redefine his legacy? The self-proclaimed king of the wild frontier understood one fundamental truth. History isn't written by the brave, it's written by those who live to tell the tale. And Davy Crockett? He left no survivors to share his version of events. What's your verdict, hero or fraud? Martyr or master mythmaker? And if you're still puzzled how a bankrupt political outcast outmaneuvered a president, perhaps you've never truly understood Davy Crockett at all. Share your theories below.